Hi, I'm Neil Sackmary.
Hi, I'm State Trooper Sean Hagstrom with the Nevada State Police Highway Patrol Division, PEIO. Please stay tuned for the next episode of Trooper Talk.
And together, we can make a difference. Here we are live at the 360 Vegas studios with this edition of Trooper Talk with a new set, which I'll explain in a moment, but we have a very special guest with us as well. Sir, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do for Nevada State Police.
Okay. Sean Hagstrom. I'm a State Trooper with the Nevada Highway Patrol Public Affairs.
And you, sir?
I'm Trooper Villanueva. I am the sworn recruiter for Nevada State Police, Southern Command or Region 1.
And you, sir?
Sergeant Adam Whitmarsh, Nevada State Police Highway Patrol. I'm the training sergeant for Southern Command.
So, on July 3rd, Channel 13 is giving Trooper Talk 6 segments for the morning blend between 9 and 10 o'clock, and that's where we're going to be unveiling this set. But the thing is that it's really important because July 4th weekend, people typically go out and do things and all that type of stuff.
Right.
So I want to talk about that. But I want to talk about you first. Okay?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, Sergeant Whitmarsh, when I first went to the IPOF, always treated me with, like, beyond the most respect. And not that everyone didn't, but always gave me a hug, always shook my hand, always appreciated for what it is that that we bring to the table. And it was always this mutual thing that we always felt between us. And it was really important, and I've known him for so long, and he's such a wonderful guy off duty. He's such a wonderful man when it comes to being on duty. And, you know, when it comes to the IPOF, you know, our past president, Chelsea Stunkel, lieutenant, was like amazing and stepped in ways that I've talked to her personally on camera of how she was just amazing. And Sergeant Whitmarsh, like, was always the same. And they always, like, it was always just a wonderful relationship that I always saw both of them in the same light.
Sure. I appreciate
that was before he was a sergeant.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely. He's a go-getter.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so you coming on the show means so much on a personal level. And then, as I said to Johnny, you know, like, I'm jumping out of the seat. When he told me you were coming yesterday, I was like freaking out. And then this morning, as we came to the store, right, we're opening up, I see an unmarked state trooper car come, and it's Sergeant Whitmarsh. And it's like, you know, to start the day, you got the hug, you see him, and it's like, it's fantastic. And so, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Tell us sort of what it is that you do, because you do so many things that people don't see, that really everyone sees the final product, but not what it is that you do. Go.
So being the training sergeant for Highway Patrol State Police, I receive the cadets fresh out of the academy. They come to me fresh out of the academy, and they start the advanced academy. So they start their trooper training, we call it. They learn how to properly investigate crashes, they learn how to properly conduct traffic stops, how to properly go through the processes of arrest, things like that. So I kind of supervise that initially. Once they finish the trooper training, trooper academy we call it, they come to me for full-time field training. Field training is a process that all cops go through after the academy. They hit the streets with a field training officer. They learn how to become a cop on the streets while doing the job. So I supervise them as they're doing the job. From there, I just watch their progression. I give them tools and ways to perfect their craft and kind of figure out how to be a trooper. Not a perfect state trooper, but a more just well put together solo trooper. When they complete field training, I sign off on their final training. So I basically sign off saying, hey, you can do the job now. You've proven what you needed to prove. I trust you on the streets by yourself to go be a journeyman trooper. And that's kind of what I oversee. From there, from the training side of things, I also work special events. So any motorcade duties, like last year with the election cycle, I had Trump, Kamala, and Biden here every 2 weeks. So I run with Chelsea. We run the motorcades for the transports, everything like that. And then any ancillary training, any training that any operations lieutenants have that they want to put their troopers through, I search out and find the training, and I put together the training and provide it to them if they need.
And it's really important because one of the things that we always talk about here is recruitment, right? And so we want the best.
We do.
But it's not easy. And so one of the things that's really important is that we had the young lady last week who was just out of the academy, which I found out because I was texting with Corporal Wellman about the admiration that she felt towards Corporal Wellman, and then what Corporal Wellman felt towards her because she actually pinned her. And that's what she wanted. I mean, like it's very special when someone goes through the academy, right? And then once they get going, you know, she was sort of describing, which was really wonderful, but it's not simple, you know? And so she was describing how she sets up her car, but, you know, she has to go out now. And so after you're out of the academy, and you're out on the road and you really deal with some people who are, you know, out of control, it's not the easiest thing. And that's why we need people like yourself to better train to make sure when they go out on the road by themselves that they know what they're doing.
Correct. Yeah, it's important for me as a training sergeant to make sure that we're providing the right training and we're getting them to the level they need to be at. When they're in the academy, they're getting scenario-based training, but there's always built-in fail-safes, right? There's always ways to keep them safe. There's always ways to, if they fail, we can build them back up and show them the right way to do things. When you're in the street dealing with the public and field training, there's no fail-safes there. You got to operate within what you have. Luckily, you have a field training officer there to kind of get your back and make sure you're doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, you're on the road as a trooper working, and you got to figure things out yourself sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and she had a firearm. She had a badge. Right. She had a patch. I mean, like, you know, she goes out and does what she does, and then, you get somebody that's belligerent on the side of the road, right? Because maybe they're intoxicated, maybe they're reckless driving, and they don't believe that they should be pulled over. You know, like I watch the show on the weekends. You know that they talk all about the police, right? And so the last night I was watching, and the guy came and they came up to the car because it was a suspect vehicle they were looking from a neighboring town, right? So they came up, they were very polite. Sir, hi, how are you? You know, please tell me why you're pulling me over. They explained, please turn the car off. I'm not turning my car off. Sir, can you please step out of the car so we can have a conversation, because I'm just telling you, they were super nice. They were super nice. And he didn't want to hear it. You know, I'm not turning out my car. Get out of the car, please. We're asking you. No. Till finally they pulled him out of the car, because at the end of the day, one of the things that we talk about is that when you push me to the absolute level, that it is the law. And if you are going to say that it's the law, then that's the end of it. And that's something when it comes to recruiting, that's why we're looking for the best. Right. Because when it comes to that, it's not an easy process, and you could be all alone for the moment, and we need people that are 100% on point with everything, right?
Right. Yeah, we want people to that want to learn how to be better and how to handle situations and whatnot. Trooper Lucero last week said it herself that she was always wanting to learn and trying to push herself to be better, and that's all that we're asking. We're not asking for any experience. We're not asking for you to come having any background in law enforcement or anything like that. We will teach you from the bottom up how to be safe, how to conduct traffic stops, how to handle these situations that you're explaining. She said that on her way home, she was still looking for traffic violations, and that's just what a cop does. We're constantly looking for threats. We're constantly looking for violations, and she's always learning and trying to be better herself, essentially. But yeah, we're looking for people that want to come out and make a difference. We want people to come out and want to better themselves, so then that way they can go out and do the job as safely as they possibly can, not only for themselves but for the motoring public. Yeah.
You have a lot of stripes there, right?
Yeah. Then, of course,
it's Sergeant Witchmarsh, right? I mean, you know,
yeah,
the thing is that you've been in this for your life. You retired, then you came back. I always make the joke that when he came back, they said, "Oh, by the way, you know, you have to go on this TV show with Neil once a week." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to sit here, and the first day he came on, he didn't understand, but you know, since the time, it's like it's fantastic, and you've grown into the fact of not only you were and are a trooper, but now you have to talk to the media, and you have to do a lot of things that a lot of people don't see because you're dealing with a lot of things behind the scenes, right?
Sure,
You're
absolutely.
dealing with people that come into your office that give you candy, right?
Well, we never turned that down.
you never turned that
just
right,
a little
you know?
bit, you know.
But
yeah.
you know, when we came into your office, you have reports. I mean, like, you know, people are coming to you and they're saying, "Here's this, here's that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Besides the fact of all the other obligations of talking to the kids and the schools and and you know, all these events, but it's something that's very important.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to the public information officer, right, it's such an important job because we need information in the general public, but also we need someone that has expertise like yourself to be able to understand what is going on, right?
Absolutely, and that's one good thing that we love about your show, Neil, is that we can tell you know, the public out there all the different things about the laws, how Nevada State Police, all the different divisions that we have, and everybody gets to go behind the scenes because look at how many people that we've put on that people probably didn't even know about. You know, with
Right.
the armor and the governor's detail, and they get to kind of see what happens within the Nevada State Police, which is really cool. And then also we talk about what's going on around the community. You know, with all these DUI crashes, we try to inform the public on what to do, what not to do. You know, as we're growing, the city's always growing, but also we're having a lot of problems with our impaired drivers, distracted driving, so we want to get that information out so we can help educate the public and make it a little bit better on the show. And that's what we love about having this actually air on Channel 13 and everything,
Yeah.
to have people watch and kind of, you know, not only behind the scenes of Nevada State Police, but, you know, everything that we do to keep the community safe every day.
Yeah, and I saw on the news yesterday, I think it was, that I saw in the news the other day, yesterday I think it was, that there was another DUI or another motorcycle fatality, right? And again, we can't talk about specifics, but again, people need to understand that when they drive on these roads, you know, I was on the phone with Trooper Hagstrom 2 weeks ago, right? He had the window down, you know, just driving, and you hear this whistle, like, zoo, and I'm just like, you know, I don't know. And he goes, "Yeah, that's a motorcycle that just blew past me at 130, you know, lane splitting." I mean, like, you know, like, these people don't care.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if they want to not be on the planet because they want to do these reckless things, they shouldn't do this when there's the motoring public that is out there, because they're putting everyone at risk, which
Absolutely.
is, I said to Trooper Hagstrom, I said, "What happens? You know, like, can't you go after this guy?" And he goes, "And what? You know, the guy's 40 cars ahead of me now.
In between vehicles.
In between cars, you have to put on your lights. You're going to make everybody, you know what I mean?" And so...
And now it becomes, it endangers the public. You know what I mean? But yeah, Neil, I'll talk a little bit about this because I can. It's going to be coming out either today or tomorrow for the press. We've had 3 sport bike fatalities due to speed and reckless driving within a month and a half. And this is ridiculous. Matter of fact, we're going to have a show down the road here that we're going to talk a little bit more about this because it's becoming I don't want to say just a problem, it's almost like an epidemic because every day I have these sport bikes always blowing by us, no license plates, you don't know if the bike's stolen or they just don't want to have it on there so they can just drive the way they drive. But just shows you how speed kills. How many times have we talked about, you know, reckless driving and speed? Speed's primarily, even with impaired driving, is the cause for a lot of our for fatal crashes. So this happened to be a motorcycle doing probably 140 plus, ends up running into back of a vehicle splitting lanes, and you're not going to survive from that. I hate to say it, but that's just one of the factors. So there's a few other things that I'll wait until it comes out.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, yeah, that within a month and a half, we've had 3 sport bike fatalities due to high speed.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been an issue. With the sport bike stuff, it becomes more of a way our options there. Like, obviously protect public safety, but what's also safe for us. Us cutting through traffic lights and sirens and heavy traffic puts other motorists at danger with us, let alone the rider. So at some point, we have to peel back and just weigh the options of, is it worth catching him for a speed violation, or is it worth somebody getting hurt because of it? So if they're going to hurt themselves, unfortunately, that's on them. But if they're going to hurt somebody else, or we're going to hurt somebody else trying to cut through traffic, we'd rather weigh those options and protect public safety.
Absolutely.
100%. You know, I mean, when I watch that show, you know, all the time, you know, these guys take off and they go, you know, the supervisor gets on the radio and he goes, call it off.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just, you're putting too much people at risk for one person, you know what I'm saying, that's doing these things.
But Neil, we also have cameras in our cars.
Ah,
So we still
yes.
video this as they
We
go by.
learned about this a couple weeks ago.
And then we just keep tabs on all this stuff. So when it piles up and we end up do getting this person, let's say he does get in a crash or we find him at a gas station. I told that story about, you know, I called ahead and then he thought he lost me, and then he pulls in the gas station and all the police converge on him and I take his bike and he goes to jail. You know what I mean? Those things can happen, but we also keep a tally on all the past reckless that they do, and we can put out, you know, an ATL, which like an all points bulletin for other people that, hey, look out for this black bike, you know, and this is what he's wearing, helmet and all this other stuff. So this kind of assists us with kind of looking for some of these motorcycles, but there's really a lot of them out there, Neil, and I hate to say that.
No,
I really don't, you know.
I was behind one yesterday, had the black on the license plate. It was like this big, like, you know what I mean? Like, listen, you know, so technology. We learned about this a couple weeks ago, about the license plate
LPRs,
reader,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You work for Nevada State Police.
Correct.
You get the take-home car.
Correct.
Like Sergeant Whitmarsh, but I'm sure they blow past him at 130 because they don't notice that it's a ghost car, right? But you get the technology.
Right.
You get the duty belt. You get the firearm. You get the pants. You get the shirt. You know what I mean? Like these things that in the real world, if you work for a different agency, you go home and you rip your pants, you have to go buy another pair of pants.
Correct.
And so this is something that the state, as Nevada State, they give you all the best equipment, everything that you need, because they want you to be successful. You just have to want to be successful as well.
Correct. Yeah, the state will give you everything pretty much from the bottom up. I had an applicant yesterday actually call me and ask, hey, what are the things I need to purchase? Do I need to purchase uniform? Do I need to purchase training? The state will give you everything that you need to start your career, minus the boots and the shoes. And honestly, they give you a boot allowance, so you're able to buy the boots after you're out of the academy. But on top of that, all of the gear that we give you it's not cheap gear. It's not like the lowest quality gear. It's gear that you're going to want to go out and do the job with. The equipment that's in our cars is all top-notch gear. It's not anything that's going to fail on you or anything that way or in that sense. The state goes through trainings. We all got brand new rifles, and the state did endless amounts of testing on those rifles to see which would fit our capabilities better. So the equipment that the state gives you is better than what any other agency could even ask for. Some of the local agencies in town don't have half of the stuff that we have in our cars. So it's a blessing. If this is something that you want to do and you're scared of not being able to purchase some stuff, because if you want to go to a local agency in town, you have to purchase half of the stuff that's on your belt. And then if you don't make it to the academy, you're kind of out $2 to $3 grand. And now you can't use half the stuff that's on the belt if you don't make it to the academy. With us, you get the gear. If you don't make it to the academy for whatever reason, you give it back. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, it's one of the best things about it. You know what I mean? You shook your head when I said they blow past him at 130 because they do it. You know what I mean? They blow past him in a marked car. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
cars blow by me at 100 miles an hour every day. Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about, before we get to some pictures, why you became a Nevada State Police officer in your career.
So I grew up in the East Coast. My father, when I was young, was killed by a drunk driver back in '89. So that kind of fueled me, like the law enforcement realm. Then I grew up around other state troopers back in New York, and I watched how they carried themselves. I lived around local SOs, sheriff's offices, and sheriffs, and deputies, and I saw kind of how they carried themselves. They carried themselves in a proper way. But when a state trooper was around, it was like a whole new fresh breath of air came into the room. The way they walked, the way they stood, the way they spoke, just that pride they carried. And I watched that with our best friend that was a sergeant for New York State Police, and I looked at him and I'm like, I want that. So I went to college, went through all my stuff. New York State was on a hiring freeze, so I looked around the country, and Nevada was hiring. They snagged me like that. So I left college, graduated, came right out here, started the academy. And that pride is always carried in. It's still there now, 15 years later.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Great story, ain't it?
No,
Yeah.
it is because
Yeah.
because the thing is that you can see it. You know what I mean? And you know, when we talk about people that work for the Nevada State Police, a lot of them have had personal stories that have fueled the fact of what it is that they do in their career and for their life. You know what I mean? And so I won't get into details. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But as a young boy and a young child, a lot of things have very adverse effects, and sometimes people go the opposite direction.
Correct.
Right? And so what I want to really talk about is the fact that you took something that could have been a negative effect on your life and turned it into not only admiration among all of your peers, does that make sense? But admiration among everybody that you deal with. And so talk to us in the sense that, you know, what you had to do to sort of flip yourself to make that's what you wanted.
Well, I mean, I was so young. I was 2 years old when he was killed. So again, I didn't get a chance to really know him. But it fueled me to the point when I learned later on in life, I got a little older, my mom and my stepfather explained to me what happened. And I, again, being around state troopers, it kind of made me realize, like, I went through that. Luckily, I had a stepfather stepped in as a father, luckily. But not everybody has that chance. And to me, mentally, I wanted to make sure that no other kid or family dealt with that. So my 5.5, 6 years in graveyard as a trooper, I made it my mission every night to get an impaired driver off the road, to prevent that from happening, to get him before the crash happens. So that was always the fuel for me, and it still was. Even as a graveyard sergeant, I was out there making stops my guys and finding drunks and just making sure it didn't happen to somebody else. That's the goal.
Because when someone loses their life, they're not coming home to dinner anymore, right? And what people have to understand is that when they do these type of activities, all of these people that it affects, and thank goodness someone stepped in. You know what I mean? And one of the things that we talk about when we talk about being a state trooper is, you know, you have to have a good family, because the family has to support you, because, you know, you might get called out at 2 o'clock in the morning because of something, and you have to be like, look, I'm leaving. You know what I mean? Like, you know, this isn't the time. You know what I mean? And so one of the most wonderful things about the state troopers is that they are a family and they're supportive. And that's really cool. You know what I mean? That you came out here, you didn't know anybody.
Nobody.
Okay. And you built a life, and, you know, look at where you are and what you've accomplished, and it's really a wonderful thing. And it's something that people need to know, that when people are catching these people who are driving impaired, that they're not just out there because they want to be nasty. They want to get people off of the road because they are going to hurt or kill someone.
Correct.
Yep.
And that's something that when you do the impairment of any type of drugs, stay home. You know what I mean? Go to a hotel room, you know what I mean? Like, do whatever you're going to do and just stay there. But please just don't get behind the wheel, right?
Yeah, and there's no excuses nowadays. You know, we've talked about this numerous times, Neil, on your show, that, you know, with today, if you have a designated driver, but you got Uber, Lyft, taxis, buses, everything available to you. And we're always telling people, we're not telling you not to have a good time. I mean, we live in a city of entertainment for, you know, across the nation here, and we want people to have a good time and enjoy themselves. But when you've had a couple drinks or using drugs or anything, please don't get behind the wheel. And that's all we ask, you know what I mean? We're not telling you not to do what your lifestyle is, but we don't want you getting behind that wheel, because we've already talked about how you could either severely injure yourself, somebody else, or possibly kill somebody else. And that like you said, that whole tree, it affects everybody, their friends, their family. It extends even more to that, you know what I mean? Cousins, and they're not going to be at that dinner table on Thanksgiving or Christmas, and it's always going to be, it's going to affect the kids when they're younger, you know what I mean? And they have to grow up that way without a father or a mother, or even a family member, because sometimes whole families get taken out, and then
Right.
you know, and then that child doesn't even have a family.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody else has to take that on. So we just want people not to get behind the wheel when they're impaired.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so now I bring this little thing out. Okay, so we used to just talk, and it was fantastic. But people found that they wanted to have pictures. So normally we have the 9-screen wall behind this, but now we have this little setting, and so now we're going to click this. Wow, look at
Here you
that.
go, Neil.
Here we go.
I
Some
sent
Saturday
these to
stuff.
Johnny today.
Really? I want
Yeah.
to see this.
There's Lucero right there in front.
Yeah.
That's who we had on.
So you get pulled over, okay? Which is sometimes very intimidating in itself, right? Because most of the time you're like, I wasn't doing anything wrong. Why are you bothering me, right? But then, because I grew up on the East Coast with the New Jersey State Troopers, who were the same caliber as the New York
York
State
State, right.
Troopers, right? And they were always like this. They had their smokies on, and you knew that when you were driving down to the shore, that if you went over 65 miles an hour, they were in the between the trees at this point, right? You knew you were getting pulled over. It wasn't like maybe. You knew. And you knew that when you got pulled over, not only maybe they were going to be nice or they weren't going to be nice, but it wasn't going to be fun and it wasn't going to be nice because this guy with this hat on was going to be 3 inches from your face telling you, listen, why were you going 80 miles an hour when you knew and you saw the white car that says the New Jersey State Trooper, right? Why would you do that? You saw us. We put signs up. Airplanes in the air. You know what I mean? Like, why are you doing this, right? When people go to the academy and you put on that smoky and you walk up to that person and you are 3 inches from their face and you are screaming at them, right? Some people don't know how to handle it.
Correct.
Right? And some people have to not only not understand it, they have to dig within themselves to say, okay, I don't really understand what's going on, but I have to go to the very bottom of the pit before I can rise back up. And it's very difficult for some people to realize that. And so I like on the fact of, on day one, you know who's going to do it. Right? And maybe you're wrong on a few or that a few are, partially there, but like it takes a very special person because someone in your career is going to be nasty to you, scream at you, probably grab you, probably want to fight you. You know what I mean? Like all these things that you are going to go through in your career, and so you need to be prepared.
Correct.
And this is something that the academy does to the best that they can, and that's when after the academy, then they go to you.
Correct. When it comes to that, we call it breaking down somebody. We have to break them down emotionally, physically, and everything else. And it sounds harsh, but there's a reason behind it. When you finish FTO with me, field training, I gotta trust that when you go out there, that person's screaming in your face, the person wants to fight you, they want to hurt you, they want to kill you for having this on your chest. I gotta know you could be professional, you can be calm, and you can maintain and do what you need to do as a state trooper. And that's why they do that. They got to make sure this person understands the conflicts and the adversity out there in the public and how they have to depend upon their skills and their training to do the job.
And it's not simple, okay? Like I see this guy right here with his legs up in the air. Let me just tell you something, okay? I could probably do that for about 3 seconds before my back is hurting, right? And before I say, this isn't for me. You know what I mean? Like, and this is nothing. Like this is rolling around on something that's probably a soft floor, right? But you have to be nimble. You have to be, very sturdy within yourself in a mental way, in a physical way, because you have to be 110% when you put on that uniform. You know, like one of my friends who was a lieutenant for another agency, says he can't pull next to a person at a red light, right? Because maybe that person is going to, be nasty because he's in a marked patrol car. There are things that you have to learn and things that you have to be solid about. And I forget who said it. Somebody said it a couple on the 200th episode, I think, or something. You are going to lose friends.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? There are people who are going to say, listen, I don't agree with you wearing this badge, and I don't want to associate with you. And so there are going to be very tough decisions that you are going to have to make, but the honor, the what you feel inside, might be very difficult, but it far outweighs that because not only you're part of this Nevada State Police family, but at the end of the day, who's going to take care of you? And so you have to take care of yourself and look towards the future of saying, look, I'm going to do this job, but I need retirement. I need these things and I need job security. I need to know that I'm going to work here and somebody's not going to fire me. I work, people work for 15, 20 years for a job and then they get a new CEO and he goes, I'm getting rid of this division or I'm getting rid of, these, senior people because we want to hire the cheap people.
Happens all the time.
It happens all the
And
time.
you know what? Like you described some of this right here. A lot of it's mental, okay? If you can get through the mental aspect of it, you don't have to be as physically fit. Like you said, I'm going to use you for an example. Yeah. You could only lift your legs at 3 seconds time. That's where we build you up. We start you from the very bottom. And before that, when we do the testing, Louis and other people will go with you and make sure that you do extra training or whatever to be physically fit prior to this. But if you're having issues with that, we build you up. We don't have you raise your legs for a minute or so or unforeseen circumstances of trying to make you do longer than what you can actually do. They actually take baby steps and they build you up. And before you know it, it's just like the Marine Corps. When I was in the Marine Corps, they take all types of people, they break you down, they build you up, but they do it gradually. And before you know it, when you could only run 1.5 miles, you're running 6 miles or so because you're constantly doing it. And it's just like our training. Once you do it every day, it's muscle memory. You're always able to do it. Your body adapts to it, and the mind can do amazing things. That's why there's certain people that their minds are better than others, like Navy SEALs, I'll give it, like special ops guys. It's all mental. Once they get through that mental thing, they can put their body through anything. So.
And the bridge program, is fantastic when it comes to the military. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He said, "I'm 55. I'm getting out of the military, and I'm done." I said, "Why don't you go join Nevada State Police?"
Skillbridge, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I run the Skillbridge guys for us.
It's very, very important that the Nevada State Police does these things for recruiting. You know, maybe you're getting out of the military. Maybe you want to get out of the military. There's 6 months, right?
Right. Yeah, it's up to 6 months that the paid internship program covers. But yeah, if you're on your last stint of your contract and you're looking to get out and not sure of what you're going to do with your next career, we absolutely put you in contact with Sergeant Whitmarsh for Highway Patrol, or Parole and Probation Sergeant as well, whatever division you want to work for. And with that, you kind of get a leg up on everybody else that's going to be in your next academy, because you're already hired, so you're already most senior in that academy. You get to train and get to start learning your 10 codes or the police codes that you're going to use out on the field. You can go out on ride-alongs, work with the troopers that you're going to be working with eventually when you make it out on training. And then you get to work the front office, or get to put together the cars that we drive on a day-to-day basis, and get to understand the technology that goes behind the cars. Because a lot of the troopers that are out there don't understand how much actually goes into our cars and the technology and how everything's set up. But as well as like the front office staff, they get to help the front office and get to see the back end of the paperwork that we don't get to see a lot of the time. They'll get to work with the courts. They'll get to work with subpoenas, documents that they have to prepare to get ready to go to the courts. So it's a really cool program that we partnered with the forces, and it's a really good program to get you ready for the academy.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All right. We don't have a lot of time left.
Okay.
All right.
Oh.
So this is, you ready for these? Okay. So this is probably 2 months now. Maybe a month and a half. Probably 2 months. We do Sean's safety tips.
Love it.
And so what he does is he makes, by the way, I don't know if I told you, but nothing is scripted, right? Which you know. But
I didn't get my scripts, though.
Right, you know what I mean? And I don't look at the pictures. They send everything to Johnny, so that when we look, because our first reaction is always the best. But he started doing this because he wanted a way to do a safety tip every single week, so that people knew that that was what to focus on for that week. You know what I mean? And maybe they saw this and they go, oh, well, this is this, and, you know, distracted driving or whatever. And so this is the thing that I'm going to do. So go.
Yep, absolutely. And this week is going to be about no cell phone use during driving. I mean, everybody knows it. You know, if you could get drivers, hands-free, so you can talk on your phone, that'd be the best part. But we have too many people that are still, you'd be driving by and they're texting. And that distractive driving is what's getting a lot of crashes in the valley. We always tell people, you know, when we have that inchworm effect, you know, where it's stop and go traffic all the time, just putting your trying to look something up on a text or send a text or something, it just takes a mere second or so. Just like changing a radio station or dropping something on the floor where we tell you just to leave it. This is becoming a problem throughout the valley, and I don't know how many times that I'm just in traffic. I look over, everybody's on their cell phones, and it is against the law. So how it is if you get stopped, you're going to get a citation. First time it's $50, you know, once you get stopped, but then thereafter, the second citation would be like $250 or more. So it goes from there, and then it'll be up to a judge also. But what we want people to do is put those cell phones away. That's one of the worst distractive driving that we can have on our valley roads right now, and that's pretty much the tip I can really tell about on just using cell phone use.
When you're doing the inchworm thing, it's one thing, right? When you're driving at 75 miles an hour, because first of all you're speeding, and you're on a freeway, and there's cars cutting in and out, and they go, "Oh, Bob, I'll be there for dinner tonight." You know what I mean? Like, this is not the time to be doing these type of activities. You know what I mean? Yep. And so in most cars today, they have, you know, where it's on the screen or
the
whatever.
Bluetooth or whatever.
And everything.
And then we also tell people, hey, if it's that important that you got to text somebody or something, pull over. Yeah. Put your hazards on. What you know, you're going to be able to get right back into traffic, but is it worth putting that jeopardy on other people? You know what I mean? We got to be mindful to other drivers. So you don't want to cause a crash not only for yourself, but maybe possibly injuring somebody else just because you had to take a phone call or decide to text somebody during that moment. So what we can say is pretty much If it's that important, then pull over, put your hazards on, and then use that cell phone.
I called Johnny this morning by accident. I hit call on his thing, and he called me and he goes, "Sir, what do you need?" I go, "Nothing." He goes, "Okay, well, I pulled over." You know what I mean? Like I pulled over. I wanted to make a phone call, wanted to make sure everything was good, and then okay, you know what I mean? Now everything's fine. I'm going to get back on the road, and you know what I mean? And if you have to, then pull over in a safe place,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to the training, the troopers not only do training mentally, physically, firearms, pepper spray, taser, blah, all of these things, and then with what it is that they do for their specialized field, right? But we lost someone that was a brother that really knew about the EVOC. And that training that you do when it comes to learning how to drive your patrol cars or the SUVs, you know what I mean? We want people to be diligent. We don't want people doing that and all that type of stuff, okay? Right. So, all right, so you know what this means?
What does this mean?
This means you survived.
That was a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
What I was going to say to you was on a very, we didn't get a chance to talk, but I just want your thoughts very quickly before we end today. The loss of your brothers that just recently happened because of someone that was doing impaired and things of this nature. Where were you? How did it affect you? Talk to us about that.
Well, Felix Alberto, he was one of my troopers in Graveyard. I was a Graveyard Sergeant. I had just gotten this training role 2 weeks prior to Mike promoting, so Mike actually took my spot in Graveyard. So that weighs heavy on me. Like, I sit back and look, I'm like, that should have been me. I should have been there that day and everything else. But they were out there doing God's work, taking impaired drivers off the road, doing the right thing, as Felix always did. Mike was just an absolute awesome dude, awesome trainer, just a good person all around. I look back on it and I think of what could we have done differently. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. They did what we've always done through years. But now being the training sergeant, the one in charge of figuring out how to make our agency better, I look back on the incident and I'm trying to find ways to make us safer. What could I do now so I know that never happens again? Just trying to do better for our guys.
Yeah, and it's something that we talk about all the time. Please know. And it's something that we always want to not only keep their memory in the forefront, but we want to make sure that the troopers are always safe and they're always doing everything that they can do, and so it's very, very important. Sergeant Whitmarsh, I appreciate you coming in.
Of course.
Okay, I want to end this segment with
I'll be back.
Okay. I want you to know on a personal level, okay, as I said when we first started, how much that you mean to me, how much you mean to the Nevada State Police, how much you mean to the IPOF. And please know that Nick Feccio and I, we are always talking about you, okay? Nick Feccio is the treasurer for the IPOF, and everyone at the IPOF has so much high regard for you there, and as well as what you will be doing in the future, because it's such a big honor, and we need people like you to step up, not only for the Nevada State Police, but for the IPOF, because injured or fallen officers is something that we never want to have happen, but we know that it will happen. And so when it is, we need to be 100% prepared. And it's why we've been doing the IPOF for now almost 17 years. And we're just honored that you have sort of stepped into this new role there.
Of course.
And we're very excited. You know what I mean?
The ideal situation is for the IPOF not to exist at all. That's what we want, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to exist at all as a nonprofit. We want to make sure no one gets hurt or killed. But at the end of the day, like you said, we're there. And I just want to say personally, thank you. You've assisted and been the backbone of IPOF for years. Whether it's storing our stuff here, having events here at your store, always being there for us, you've always come through for us. So you're the star there.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
All right, very quickly because
Yeah.
we have to film.
Yeah.
But just tell them right now in the camera what they need to do to get in there.
You got to go to nevadastatepolice.com, submit your application there. If you have any questions or you need help with anything, you can reach out to me and I will help you.
There you go. That's beautiful.
Trooper Hagstrom, fantastic. You know
Always
what I
a
mean?
pleasure, Neil.
It's fantastic that you brought him, that you surprised me, and you know what you do with bringing everyone on every single week, okay, in a different division to completely showcase what the Nevada State Police is about. That it's not just a person with a badge and all these things. That they have all these different divisions, and so it's
It's a
fantastic.
pleasure, Neil, and thanks again for all you do. We're looking forward to another 200 seasons.
200, right?
Yeah, for another one.
years now.
Yeah, excellent. So I mean, we're steamrolling this. We're doing very well, and we're finding more watchers all the time because I got people coming up all the time. So I think it's great. It's a great program that we really need in our community, and just letting people know about the safety, what Nevada State Police does. And we just can't thank you enough, Neil. So thank you
Well, it's
very much.
my honor to do
Appreciate
this.
it.
And I
Absolutely.
love it. Believe
That's
me,
good.
it's like the highlight of my week. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's look right here, and then we're going to wave, okay? We'll wave at Sergeant Donaldson. Say you later.